Hi everybody, I'm just waiting for everybody to get into the room. Let's see, thanks for joining us today. Okay, the attendees are all coming. Very good. Well, welcome everybody. My name's Professor Matthew Heinsohn and I'm the Deputy Dean of the Sydney Conservatorium of Music, and it's really great to have so many of you come and join us today to hear about, as you can see on the screen, which music degree is right for me. And in fact, we're going to extend it a little bit more. We're also going to talk about why you should study a music degree, and we've got 5 special guests later on in the webinar to talk to you about their experiences and also to answer any questions you might have. So thank you so much for joining us. As I said, I'm from the Sydney Conservatorium of Music, and hopefully you know why you're here, that this is presented by the Conservatorium. And you can see where we're located here. We're located right next to the Botanical Gardens, right near the Opera House. But as well as that, of course, we are part of the University of Sydney. And you know, the Conservatorium was ranked, in 2020, I think it was ranked the #1 place to study music in Australia. And I must say, I'm not surprised. I'm really proud to be working here. And I'm really pleased that you're thinking about coming to study here as well. That's really, really good. We are part of the University of Sydney, so we're part of one of Australia's and the world's great universities, a university in fact ranked in the top 50 in the world more generally. So that certainly is, it's a great organisation to be a part of. Look, there's all sorts of reasons why you should study at the Conservatorium. You can see some of them. We've listed 5 there. I mean, I just talked about the location. It's right in the heart of Sydney, in the centre. It's such a beautiful location. In fact, as I look out, I'm looking out from my office now, and I can see the Sydney Botanical Gardens there, which and then down the road is the Opera House, as I've said. We have probably, I would think, without question, actually, we have the broadest range of musical degrees and musical study areas of anywhere in the country. So pretty much if you're interested in studying it, we've got it here at the Conservatorium, and our teachers are first rate. It's so hard to get a job here at the Conservatorium to be an academic, because everything is just, like the standard is really high. We've got teachers who are really active in the arts industry in Australia and internationally. We have wonderful facilities, and I don't know if many of you have actually visited the Conservatorium. It's this sort of castle building as you walk up Bridge Street or Macquarie Street, and the facilities are really fantastic. And if you haven't been, come along. We have some tours quite regularly at the Conservatorium. And in fact, Jackie will be able to tell you about that a little bit later. And have a look at even the halls, the studios, the practice rooms that we have. They're really quite something. We have a strong links with industry, because we believe that students who are studying in a music degree, or in fact any degree, really should be part of a broader community. They really should be part of the industry. So lots of our students have lessons with and seminars with people who are really part of the arts industry. So you're really getting taught by people who know what they're doing and who have links to help you in your further career once you've finished. But there's something on here that hasn't been mentioned, which I actually think is one of the most important reasons why you'd study music at the Conservatorium. And it's because of the quality of the students who study here. It's the quality of your peers should you come to study at the Conservatorium. I mean, the students who come to study here are really interested and passionate about music. And look, it was a long time ago when I finished school, but I was just so excited when I studied a music degree. I studied at the University of Sydney as well, my undergraduate degree. And I was just so excited to be surrounded by people who loved music as much as I do. And the friends and the peers and the colleagues that I made at that time, I still talk to today. They're still part of the music industry, and so I'm so pleased that I studied music, and I hope that you will be too. Now, what degrees do we offer? Well, most of you are probably here for the undergraduate degree, and if any of you are here for the postgraduate program, please let me know. This looks like a lot of things, doesn't it? And I'll break it down in the next few slides, but you can see, even by looking at it, we've got such a broad range of programs, from the diploma, which is 2 years long, right through the Bachelor of Music, each of which is either 4 years or 5 years, and right through to the postgraduate areas of study. So let's just now have a look at some of these areas, and I'll just break it down for you. And I must say, if you're interested, I believe that you can post some questions in the chat. So don't hesitate to ask me questions, because I always say to people, if you've got a question, I bet that a whole lot of other people have questions as well. So don't be shy to do that. So if you want to study a performance degree, well, there's different areas you can do it in. So for those of you who are interested in studying a performance degree, and all the performance degrees are, funnily enough, they're all about performing. They're all about developing your skill as a musician, but as a performer in particular. So you can see we've got areas in orchestral instruments. So all the orchestral instruments, we have specialists here teaching that. Non-orchestral instruments, and you can see the range of instruments we have here. How about this one here, drum set? We started the drum set program 2 years ago, and I was just actually talking to Simon Barker, who's the academic who runs that aspect of the performance degree today. He said that the drummers doing that course are just going to be the ones who set the world on fire when they're finished. It's really wonderful. We've got programs in Chinese traditional instruments, which again is quite new, and we're one of, in fact, I think there's about 3 other places around the world outside of China where you can major in those instruments. You might be interested in classical voice, you might be interested in historical performance, which is really amazing actually. That is looking about how music was performed 100, 200, 300, 400 years ago, and learning the techniques of those instruments, specifically as they were played by people in those historical times. And of course, jazz performance. Our jazz program is extremely strong. Every time I hear our jazz performers play in a concert, I'm absolutely blown away how good they are. And in fact, we've got 2 people from the jazz degree you're going to hear from later. And how about this new one we're starting next year, which is music theatre. So we're going to be the main place, particularly in New South Wales, for people to study music theatre. So this is the performance degree, and you can see the degrees up the top. If you want to study in these areas and major in these areas, you'll either study the BMUS performance, the BMUS/Bachelor of Advanced Studies performance, and I'm going to tell you what that means a little bit later, or the BMUS music education. So that's the performance degree. And Tian, I'll get to your question in a minute, okay? A very good one, by the way. Thank you very much. So let me talk to you just a little bit about music theatre, because we're so excited about this. It's new, and we're going to make a really big impact in that. I mean, music theatre is a multi-billion-dollar industry in Australia, let alone internationally. So we're very keen to have this starting for the first time. And you can see by reading the details on that slide about this new program. So if you're interested in studying music theatre, you'll be studying either the Bachelor of Music Performance or the Bachelor of Music Performance with Advanced Studies. So I know a lot of you might be really interested in that, in studying that. Now, what about those who are interested in studying composition? Well, there's 3 different main pathways that you can choose. And in fact, the Conservatorium is the largest place for you to study composition in Australia. We have a really large number of composers, and they're doing amazing things. So the first stream, if you like, the first area you might look at is composition, and I put there, it's for concert music that focuses on the Western classical music tradition. Now what that means is, If you're interested in composition and you're interested in, for example, writing a piece for string quartet that might be performed in a Musica Viva concert, or by writing a piece that's going to be performed by the Sydney Symphony Orchestra in one of their main subscription series, you do this first degree. If your interest is more in film music or game music or commercial music, you'd study this composition for creative industries stream. And in fact, I'm thinking about one of the programs that we just had for those students, which was, we've got some ads running on Spotify, and we got the composers to write the background music to go with those Spotify ads. So that's the sort of thing that you do in the Composition for Creative Industries program. Or if you're really interested in working on your laptop and really interested about sound rather than notation so much, and sound really gets you going, you might want to look at the Digital Music and Media stream. Now, that is all about working in the digital realm. So there's different degrees you can do here. The first one, BMUS Composition and BMUS/BAS Composition, relate to this first area up here. Composition for Creative Industries and Digital Music and Media relate to this one here, which is just the BMUS. I know this gets a bit confusing, it's a bit technical, but it'll make sense, particularly when you look up the university website and you also look at the UAC codes. You can do composition also as part of the Bachelor of Music Education. And any degree through Table S, that is the digital music program. I'm going to talk to you about that in a minute. Oh, in fact, I'll talk about it right now. Starting from next year, if you are doing a degree that is not a music degree, you can choose this new digital music major or minor from what's called the shared pool. And I'll show you what that means in a minute. But it just means, for example, if you're doing an arts degree or a science degree or a commerce degree or design science, I think is another one, there's a few other ones, you can choose this digital music major or minor as your second major. So it's amazing. You can study music, digital music, as part of another degree. What about if you're interested in contemporary music? Well, we've got a very strong contemporary music program, and I know we have a lot of interest in that from potential applicants. The degrees that you do that in are the BMUS or the BMUS Music Education. So you can actually do a music education degree and major in contemporary music. And in fact, you know what? We're one of the first places in the world where you can do that. It's quite revolutionary. We're making a huge splash internationally with that program because it's new, but it makes sense. Why wouldn't music teachers, if you want to be a music teacher, why wouldn't you be interested in contemporary music? There's a lot of people that are. So we're very proud of that. And musicology is, of course, about writing about music. It's about analysing music. It's about knowing the history of the music and its place in the world and how it relates to different cultures. And you can do that degree through the Bachelor of Music and the Bachelor of Music Education. So you can see from that we have a wide range of discipline areas and principal study areas that you can choose. Let me just talk about music education because there is a lot of interest in this. How is it different from the other degrees? Well, it's a 4-year degree, so it's the same as most of the other degrees. The difference is in a music education degree, you do half of your course based purely around music, the same as what the other students are doing, but you do the other half based around music education subjects. So it's really training you to, training you in a practical sense to be a music teacher. But you'll find that in fact a lot of students who do this go on to do really interesting and amazing things. Lots of them actually don't go into schools. They may go into completely different areas of practice, but it's a different thing with that degree in terms of how it's structured compared to the other ones. And you can also see there are special requirements. So if you want to do music education, you have to get 3 Band 5 results, including English, in your HSC or your equivalent. Okay, so it's the government sets those guidelines, so you have to be aiming to do that, and you also have to upload a personal statement to UAC when you're putting in your application. What about for those students out there, potential students who are interested in things other than music? Well, we have these double degrees at the Conservatorium. And if you're doing either a Bachelor of Music, which is a 4-year degree, or BMUS/BAS, which stands for Bachelor of Advanced Studies, either in performance or composition, what that means, if you do one of those degrees, is you, if you want to, can do a second major in one of these areas. Now, so say for example, you are a flute player and you're really interested in doing the Bachelor of Music performance, but you also have a love of immunology and pathology. I mean, what an unusual combination, but hey, I'm not judging you. You can, if that's what you're into, great. Now, what you can do, if you did this double degree, you do your Bachelor of Music majoring in flute performance, and you do your Bachelor of Advanced Studies major majoring in immunology and pathology. And have a look at this massive range of subject areas you can do. Everything from, there you go, business analytics to history and philosophy of science to, I was thinking of all the unusual ones, marine science. That'd be interesting, actually. Soil science and hydrology, or Spanish and Latin American studies. So I think that we have such a wide range of subject areas in this thing called Table S. This is, the university calls this Table S, S for shared, that if you really have passions other than music that you really feel you are interested in, you have the opportunity to take a second major in this area. So it's really, you can see how broad this area is. Now, how do you get into the Conservatorium? Well, firstly, let's just go through this. You have to get an ATAR or equivalent of 70 for domestic students. Okay, so that's the minimum ATAR. But in addition to that, what you have to do is you have to pass your audition or your interview. And in fact, if you don't pass your interview or your audition, it doesn't matter what ATAR you get, you won't get into the Conservatorium. Okay, so the interview and the audition is really important. And it may seem scary, but actually, it's just a way to make sure that you're going to succeed when you come to the Conservatorium. Okay, because we don't want people to struggle here, but and the standard is high. But if you're the sort of person that loves music and you think you're good at it, and other people told you you're good at it, you shouldn't let the audition or interview put you off. It's just part of getting into the Conservatorium. And so everybody has to do an audition, except if you're doing another degree and you're doing something from Table S, or if you want to study a certain subject, an elective subject, you probably don't have to do an audition. But if you are going to do a music degree, just a reminder, you really have to do your audition there. Now, when it says students who are not successful in the audition may be made an offer to Diploma of Music, that's actually not correct. This is supposed to say students who did not receive an ATAR of 70 may be made an offer for the Diploma of Music. So if you're really good at music, but you don't do so well in your HSC or your Year 12, you can still get into the Conservatorium. You can go into the Diploma of Music, and then if you do well, you can apply to transfer over to the Bachelor of Music, and all your credits are credited across, so you don't waste any time. So that's actually really good. And when it says students may be able to audition twice, oh, thank you if someone's updated that. That's wonderful. Students may be able to audition twice. Yeah, you may be able to, particularly if you do it 1 year and you do the other audition the next year. Okay, now please, if you have any questions about the audition, don't hesitate to ask them in the chat. I know it can be scary, And we try to make it as friendly as possible, but it's a necessary part of the process, and we'd really love you to be comfortable doing it. So Aram has asked, what standard do you have to be, for example, to get into the con? Do you have to have an A-mus? Well, look, what I'd say to you is the more important thing for you to do is, particularly for performance, but for everything in fact, when you do your audition or your interview, there are specific requirements that you have to follow. And we publish those on our website, and you can see the guide down there with the link down there. Now you've just got to make sure that you prepare the right things for your audition. That's the most important part. Okay, so don't worry about how good you are, because you don't know how good you have to be. And in fact, often someone might not be as technically brilliant as somebody else, but they may show really great potential, and we might say, okay, that person has great potential. So again, the most important thing is that you do what you're supposed to do for the audition or the interview. So for example, if you're going to submit a contemporary music portfolio, you have to submit 2 or 3 original songs. So make sure they actually are original songs. Don't do cover versions of someone else's song, because that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for original music in that category, and it says that clearly in the guidelines. Okay, so it's really, make sure you do that. I'd like to tell you briefly about this incredible thing we've got, which is called CASAS, or the Creative Arts Special Admission Scheme. Now, this is wonderful for those students who are currently doing Year 12 in New South Wales, and you might be doing the HSC or the IB, or you may be studying elsewhere in Australia in Year 12 this year. If that's you, and you're applying for the Bachelor of Music or the Bachelor of Music Composition or the Bachelor of Music Performance, if that's what you're interested in, after you do your audition, and if you've applied to UAC, we can give you a special offer to come and study at the Conservatorium before you've actually got your final ATAR. That is, if your predicted ATAR is above, I think it's 72. So if your predicted ATAR is above 72, and if you pass your audition or interview, you can get an offer to come and study at the Sydney Conservatorium shortly after you've done your audition or the interview. I think it's like a week after, or 10 days or something like that, depending on when you do your audition. So that's amazing, right? Because it means for those of you who are really passionate about music, and particularly for those who've applied in the July round, in particular, if you do a good audition or have a great portfolio, then you get a firm offer before you've even finished your Year 12. So that's really incredible. That's really great, because it just takes the pressure off. It means that you're going to get in so long as you meet the minimum ATAR requirement of 70. So in fact, it's not even if you meet the ATAR. It doesn't even matter what you do in your ATAR. Well, I shouldn't say that really, because you really should be aiming to get the highest ATAR that you want to. Okay, so this is a great initiative we've got here. So, particularly if you're successful in the July round in particular, you could be made an offer under this special scheme. So again, it takes the pressure off. Here's the audition dates. If you want to get an early offer, you need to audition in this July round, which is 5th to 9th of July. And if you're interested in music theatre or jazz or drum set, you can't audition here. Or you can audition in a second round, which is the dates there. And as you can see there, the first round, if you can either audition live at the Conservatorium, or you can audition by video. But if you're going to apply in round 2, you can only apply by video. And it's really important you take notice of those closing dates there as well. Very good. Well, look, please ask the questions. Please ask lots of questions of us. And I'd like to now introduce our special guests that we have for today's webinar. And we've selected these 5 recent graduates of the Conservatorium because they're all doing amazing things. And you can also ask them questions if you want to in the chat. We've got Sally Davis, who's recently completed a Bachelor of Music in Contemporary Music. Hi, Sally.
Hello. Thank you for having me on.
Hannah James, who's an amazing bassist, and she's recently finished the Bachelor of Music Performance, majoring in jazz. Hi, Hannah.
Hi, Matthew.
Another person who did the jazz degree is Jack Purden. Hi, Jack.
Hey, Matt, how are you?
I'm good. Alexis Weaver, who we were just, in fact, before we started this webinar, I was talking about Alexis's interview from before she even started. It was 8 years ago, and so now look at her. She's doing such amazing things. Alexis, you did a Bachelor of Music Composition. Hi there.
Hi, Matthew. Yes, that's right. Composition. Hi, everyone.
And Natalie Gunaratna, who did a music education degree, and Natalie was an international student and has gone on to absolutely incredible things. Thanks for joining us today, Natalie.
Thank you, Matthew. Pleasure being here.
Now, look, let's start with you, Natalie, because can I ask you, in fact, I'll ask all the panelists, we'll start with you first, Natalie.
Yes.
Why did you decide to study music at the Sydney Conservatorium, in fact, music education at the Sydney Conservatorium? And you're an international student. Why did you decide to come to Sydney?
I came as an international student, but I came in with the hopes of migrating into Sydney and making Sydney my home. And I just thought that it was a wonderful way of getting into the music world here in Sydney and actually getting to know the system and so on. And I will not regret joining it. And it was actually one of my best decisions ever, because upon joining it, I learned about the system here and how teaching works here and so on. So that was very, very valuable for me, considering that this is where my forever home would be. It was very important to me that I get to know the music world, get to know the music culture, get to know all the people in the music world and so on. So, yeah.
Great. Well, it was a big move for you.
It was a massive move. Yeah. Massive move, very daunting. And the con has been the best because it actually took me in, and it was like this nice, warm, kind of welcoming hug, kind of 4 years to this is the process and this is what it is. So it kind of eased me into the system and this new environment.
Oh, wonderful. Well, I'm so pleased to hear that it worked for you. And what about you, Jack? Why did you decide to study a music degree?
I realized at the end of high school that I think that the most effective way to achieve the best things possible for yourself is to do things that you're interested in, because even if you pick something that maybe you don't think is the right path to follow, or maybe your family or friends don't, if you pick the thing that you're most interested in, then you're most likely to work the most efficiently and achieve the best. So that's why I chose it.
So you obviously loved music at school.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Great. Look, and I'm so pleased you said that, Jack, because I know you mentioned other people might say, "What are you doing music for?" Did you have people saying that to you?
Yeah, that's right. Music has a bad rap as a career path to follow. That's for sure.
It's interesting in that, isn't it? Because it is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and everyone loves music. So I'm so pleased. I'm so pleased you followed your passion, Jack, and it's obviously worked for you.
Yeah, that's right. I think it's a good decision to have that ethos across the board, regardless of your interests.
great. Thank you. And what about you, Hannah? Because you also did the jazz degree. Why did you decide to study the jazz degree at the Sydney Conservatorium?
Oh, well, for me, I was already playing a lot when I was in high school. It was something I really enjoyed doing, and I'd already spent a lot of time developing things there. And I had this opportunity where I could pursue it further, deeply, with some incredible musicians and like-minded peers. And it was just too good an opportunity to pass up. I knew if it didn't work out, that I would have a degree and a skill, and there would be other options. And I've just been very fortunate that those other options have never been something I've considered, and I'm so glad I made the choice that I did.
Wonderful. We are too, actually. So we're pleased you made that decision. And what about you, Sally? Why did you choose to study the Bachelor of Music in Contemporary Music, which was, I think, it's probably quite a new program when you started?
It was very new, and I had a bit of an interesting experience applying for uni. I was coming from Canberra, and all my friends were flocking to Melbourne to go to uni. So naturally, I wanted to go with them to Melbourne. But I also applied for University of Sydney as well. And when I came for my audition or my interview at the Conservatorium, I had such a great experience that I backflipped and changed my mind and decided to go to the Conservatorium. So something that I thought was going to be a really nerve-wracking experience was a great one. And I applied for a few different majors. I applied for musicology, composition, and contemporary music. And I decided to go with contemporary music because that's what I've been doing for quite a few years now. And it's a really broad and flexible degree. They all are, but this particular one had some topic areas that I was really interested in. So.
Oh, wonderful. And what about you, Alexis? Why did you elect to study a music degree?
So for me, I really struggled at the beginning of the HSC to figure out what I was going to do. I really loved music, and I was a flautist and a harpist, and I also really loved things like science and languages, so I really struggled to make the choice. But in the end, I decided that nothing made me feel as happy as when I was composing, and that it was worth pursuing that passion. And if I was going to do it as someone who loves learning, I'd want to try and go for the most highly rated music institution in Australia. So that was really what tipped me over the line. And when I came to the Conservatorium and saw how passionate the students were and how just amazing the resources were, that's what really tipped my decision.
It's always interesting to hear this, even all these years after the event. So thank you. And please, for our attendees, if you have any questions, either for our staff here or our alumni, please, we're very happy to put them in the chat, and we'd love to hear from you. Alexis, perhaps I can stay with you. You did a Bachelor of Music Composition. If you had to say, what was the one best thing, or the thing that made the most impact upon you as a person during your music studies, what would that be?
Wow. I could answer that in so many ways. The thing I took away from my undergraduate composition degree, I mean, apart from all of the new ways of composing that I really didn't even know existed as a high school student, and I did by the end of my undergraduate degree, I think the main thing that really impacted on shaping me as a composer was the fact that if you were willing, you could be challenged at any level of your education. So there was always new opportunities for you to open up your practice or try new things, not only in the curriculum of what we were taught, but there were always opportunities around you. So learning to grab those and learn from them and really immerse yourself in the experience has been one of the most important things for me to come out of my undergraduate degree. Yeah.
Thank you, Alexis. And what about you, Jack? What's something amazing that you experienced during your undergraduate degree?
I think for me personally, probably the most important thing that I experienced was during high school. I was quite lazy and disinterested in the work that I was doing, and going to the con was really the first time that I had ever felt properly driven or interested in doing something. And it really awakened that. And I think that that mainly came because of the people that I was around and also the staff that we had. So it just gave me a really good focus and really good goals, which I'd never experienced.
Mm. Thank you. And what about you, Sally? You were doing a lot of nodding when Jack was saying that. Is that a similar sort of experience that you've had?
Yeah, I completely agree. At the con, you're just surrounded with people who have the exact same passion as you, and that can be really motivating. And also, I completely agree with what Alexis was saying as well. It's one thing to go and do your curriculum, but at the con, there were so many external opportunities. And if you really keep your eye out for them and put your hand up for everything, I found myself doing so many things that I didn't think I would really do, and then I was doing them. And it's just because, if you say yes to everything, and then you get heaps of different varied experiences, and that was what I took away.
Wonderful. And what about you, Hannah? What's something, if you can point to one incredible thing during the degree that you experienced that you'd like to share?
Oh, sure. This is something that hasn't just been the degree. I think it's been for the entire experience of being in the music world or the arts community. Like everyone else, the people are so important, but I think also the sort of philosophy and outlook that comes from the artistic community. I was like Alexis, I've always been very interested in a wide range of areas, and arts is one of those few opportunities where you can touch on so many different aspects of life, different industries, different people, different subject areas. There's this space to embrace all of those things in an arts practice. And that's something for me has just brought such a richness to my life, a richness to my work that I don't think I would have been able to find in another industry.
Thank you. That's fascinating, actually. Great to hear. And Natalie, what about you? What's something you've already talked about, the warm embrace, as you described it, of coming to study music. But is there one particular aspect that you found was really just something amazing in particular?
Yes, like amongst so many, I would say, because I did music education, the inspiration that I took out of it, because I was taught by inspiring music educators who were not only skilled at what they did, but they were also dedicated, not only during CASAS, but outside as well. They were dedicated in terms of trying to get to know you as a student, trying to find ways of teaching something that much better, and so on. I found that incredibly inspiring, which I took on when I taught in schools after graduating and so on. So that was really made a huge impact for me personally.
Wonderful. Thank you. Well, look, one more. Don't forget to ask questions in the chat if you're listening wherever you are. One more question to our panelists before we throw it open to more questions for people in the chat. I'd love to know what each of you are up to now, and if you had a piece of advice for potential applicants to study music at the Sydney Conservatorium. Perhaps, Hannah, can we start with you? What are you up to now, and do you have a hot tip for our potential applicants?
Well, I do a lot of different things now. So I'm a casual teacher and academic at the in the jazz program. I also work running an ensemble program at a selective school in Sydney, where I get to work with some incredible young musicians. I teach privately. I also run 3 of my own bands, including a 10-piece ensemble, and we've worked with some incredible international artists over the last few years. And I work as a freelance musician, so I've done musical theatre shows, freelance sort of pop gigs, wedding gigs, that sort of thing, cabaret. It's been very, very broad. And I also write my own music for my ensembles as well.
Sounds like you're really busy.
A bit crazy sometimes.
And what have you got a hot tip for our potential applicants?
I just say take every opportunity that comes along, especially at the beginning. You just don't know what's going to happen. One thing does tend to lead to another, and you get to see some amazing things along the way.
Thank you. What about you, Alexis? What are you up to these days, and what's your tip for potential applicants?
Right. Well, firstly, what I'm up to these days, I mean, I never left the con. You can't get rid of me. I'm now a casual academic at the con, like Hannah. So I coordinate and tutor across first and second year subjects, mostly doing musicology and music technology subjects. And my area where I specialise in composition is sound art and electroacoustic music, or maybe we can call it digital music. And so I'm able to teach and have amazing conversations with my students at the con, and learn a lot along the way as well, always learning. I started in 2014 and I really haven't even scraped the surface of all there is to know. And I'm also lucky enough to be able to work on my projects on the side. So I recently delivered a theme tune for a new Australian podcast, which is doing quite well. I do a bit of sound design for short film and radio, and that's really, really fun. So I'm really just having fun all the time, working on my projects and then coming and talking about them through my teaching. And that leads me to my hot tip, which is don't put yourself in a box once you come to the conservatorium if you choose to study with us. I started out as, like I said, as a flautist and harpist, and now I ended up doing sound design and sound art, really, really gone far to the end of the digital music spectrum. And if I hadn't had an open mind and embraced new things, I never would have gotten there. So that's really changed the course of my life. And if you are open to these new experiences and really throwing yourself in, it could do the same for you.
Wonderful. Thanks, Alexis. What about you, Sally?
So I met two of my now best friends at the con, and we started a band called Salamanders. So I still play with them. Through the con, we actually got to tour to Japan. We won a grant through the con, which was amazing. And after that, we've been able to release an EP and a couple of music videos and do a little Australian tour. So that's been really my main thing that I'm working on at the moment. Other than that, just collaborating with other musicians, doing some solo work, some corporate functions and weddings and things, which is always a bit of fun, and some production for other people. And my hot tip would be to work with as many musicians that you're at uni with as you can, from all different, degree majors as well. Don't just stick to your own, but really branch out and work with as many people as you can, because they're the people that are in the industry now and will be in the future. And you can make some really great friendships and get some really good opportunities from just working with everyone and putting your hand up for everything.
Thank you. I love these tips. We should be writing these down. They're actually incredible, to be honest. Natalie, what about you? I mean, as you've alluded to, you've sort of ended up on a unique path and making tremendous inroads into community, I believe.
Yes. So right now I'm involved with high school choirs, developing high school vocal ensembles. And I've founded my own organization which is Phoenix Voices of Youth, which is an immigrant youth choir, which is based in Fairfield. We started about maybe 3 years ago, and we've made a couple of television appearances, which is quite exciting. And this year I was the choral director for a play at the Sydney Theatre Company, which was a fabulous experience, where I trained actors how to sing and so on. I'm also a private singing teacher and so on. And my tip would be to say yes. If you watch the movie Yes Man, be that person. Say yes to everything, and keep an eye out for opportunities. Be an open person, and because the friendships you make with these amazing musicians who are your colleagues would last a lifetime, and amazing collaborations will come out of it. So yeah, just keep an open mind and open heart, and the sky is the limit.
Wonderful, thank you. Jack, what about you?
Yeah, so currently I've just been playing basically full time, and I've been doing that since pretty much since second year at the con. As well as that, I also run a booking agency, which I also started when I was at the con. Huge thank you to the con for helping me with that. The Conservatorium was a good help with developing early corporate connections and whatnot when I was first starting that. And one of the administrators who used to work at the con, Kate Drain, who's no longer there, she helped me a lot with that. And then I guess other than that, I mean, because of COVID, it's opened up a lot of other really interesting opportunities. We've been working with a software developer currently to improve the software that's available in the events industry. So we've been kind of providing advice on that, which is very tangential to music, but I'm really excited that it's led me there. And I guess it just goes to show that you can do a lot of really interesting things as a musician.
Great. And it's interesting, isn't it, that you've touched on something that's really important to the University of Sydney in general, which is that in every degree, you're not just learning about the nuts and bolts of, for example, playing trumpet or playing bass or whatever, composing or whatever it is, or writing songs. You're also developing a whole lot of other skills which you can use in a whole range of other areas. That's what you're describing, isn't it, Jack?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Great. Excellent. Well, look, thanks very much to our panelists. I must say I found it really fascinating. It's amazing to hear what you're all up to. 5 tremendously successful people. Thank you, Natalie, Hannah, Sally, Jack, and Alexis for joining us today. And I hope you at home or wherever you are have found them interesting as well, as interesting as I have. Don't forget to ask questions in the chat. We've got a couple more minutes. Just before we finish today, I thought I might invite Mr. Scott Ryan to say a few things, because Scott is the artistic manager for our ensembles program. And in fact, the ensembles program at the Conservatorium is really quite big. We've got so many different ensembles, and Scott's always busy trying to work out who's going to do what and so on and so forth. So Scott, can you just give us a rundown on the range of ensembles that we have running at the Conservatorium?
Certainly, thanks Matthew. So at the con, we have a huge suite of ensembles, as Matthew just mentioned, everything from our symphony orchestra all the way through to jazz big bands, jazz combos, wonderful contemporary ensembles that Sally talked about that are often student-led. Our Chinese music ensembles become hugely popular, both with main campus students and con students. We have our gamelan ensemble, all sorts of weird and wonderful groups that get together. And also within the classical degree, our chamber music program. So everyone that does classical music at some point in your degree, you'll get together and form a wind quintet, a brass quintet, a string ensemble, whatever it is that you do. Now, the most exciting part about all of that is it's pretty much guaranteed that any time that you're in an ensemble during your time at the con, you'll go on tour. And touring is one of the big things that we do at the con through philanthropy and wonderful donations from some of our supporters. In the past, we've toured to Spain. Jack has toured with us over to New York and Chicago to play in different festivals with the big bands. So that's a hugely exciting thing that is open to every single student at the con. We also have our choirs led by 2 incredibly well-known and respected choral directors, Paul Stanhope and Elizabeth Scott. And what they are doing with our choirs is quite remarkable. In fact, next week, Paul's doing pretty much a world premiere of an Australian work that he's uncovered of Ross Edwards. And not only is it choir, he's managed to get dancers from Sydney Dance Company, and it's also being acted out and directed by Narelle Yeoh. So it'll be a fully immersive choral concert. So that's just a few of the things that we do at the con in the ensembles programs. Thanks, Matthew.
Thanks, Scott. That's really interesting, and I love the touring aspect. And the tours that the students go on, they're funded by the Conservatorium, aren't they? The students themselves don't have to pay to go on it.
That's right. They're absolutely free to the students.
Yeah, so it's an amazing opportunity, and indeed the University of Sydney has a goal that they want 50% of students to have had an overseas experience by the time they've finished a degree. And whilst COVID has put a little bit of dampener on that for the time being, and we're not going to send people away while COVID's still raging, it's definitely a really great interest in the University of Sydney. So I'm really proud about that. And so thanks, Scott, for all the work you do for all our ensembles. One more person that applicants might need to say hello to is Shauna Crick. And Shauna is the very friendly voice and face, your voice on the other end of the phone and person answering your emails with questions, many questions that you might have. Hi, Shauna. What's one piece of advice that you've got for our potential applicants?
Oh, look, all I can say is just do your very best. We want to see your personality shine through the music that you give to us, through your audition or your portfolio of works. We come across many different types of personalities and characters, and we love it. The more we get to see of you, the better. So do your very best, enjoy making music, and we look forward to meeting you in the audition rounds later this year.
Thanks, Shauna. And you've just reminded me, I mean, one of the great things, I'm a composer. For some of you, I've written a lot of music, and whether you're a composer or a performer playing music, or whether you're writing about music or you're teaching others about music, what an incredible privilege it is to actually be doing something that may change people's lives. I mean, how many people in the world get to say that's what they do? So we've all been to it. We've heard someone do something absolutely incredible in a performance, and it touches us and it moves us, and that's what music can do. Or you've experienced learning about music from an incredible music teacher who really made you think about the music that you listen to and you love in a completely different way. Or you've been to a concert or on YouTube and you're playing or even watching a film. Let's say you're watching a film and you hear this incredible music in the background, and you realise that the music is in fact manipulating and dragging you along in the whole film. And what a powerful thing that is. Can you tell that I love music? I love music, and I love students studying music. And thanks so much for joining us today. And I very much hope that I'll see you here next year or the year after, or whenever you choose to join us here at the Conservatorium of Music. Thanks for joining us today. And again, thanks for our panellists. You've been really terrific, and I'm so pleased that you had a great experience studying music at the Sydney Conservatorium. If you need to get in contact with or have any further questions, here's the email to send your questions to: future.student@sydney.edu.au. You might want to write that down: future.student@sydney.edu.au. Thanks again for joining us today, and as I said, I hope that I'll see you soon at the Sydney Conservatorium of Music.